Hi, I'm Sarah, your narrator for today, and I'm here to share a gripping story that will leave you questioning the bonds of family. This is the story of Casey, a 34-year-old woman who thought she had it all figured out when she bought her first house 2 years ago. For Casey, that house was more than just a building. It was a symbol of her hard work, her independence, and her dreams coming to life. Can you imagine the pride of owning your own space, a place where every corner reflects your personality? For Casey, it was a milestone, a testament to her years of dedication as a freelance marketing consultant. Working from home, she earned a comfortable living, enough to cover her $1,500 monthly mortgage, $200 in utilities, and still have plenty left for savings. She even had enough to lend a helping hand to her family whenever they needed it. Her parents, Linda and Robert, relied on part-time jobs. Her mom cleaned offices 3 days a week, and her dad picked up handyman gigs when he could. Meanwhile, her older sister, Jessica, lived across town with her husband, Mike, and their energetic 8-year-old son, Tyler. Life wasn't always easy for them, with Mike's inconsistent warehouse hours and Jessica's struggle to find steady work. Casey, being the generous soul she was, often sent money their way, $200 here, $300 there, to help with rent or unexpected expenses. She never asked for repayment. After all, family helps family, right? Casey's house was her haven, a sanctuary where she could focus on her work and enjoy the quiet moments that fueled her creativity. Picture this, a cozy upstairs bedroom that doubled as her home office, a serene back porch where she sipped coffee during breaks, and a space that was entirely hers to shape. Everything was arranged just the way she liked it, her desk perfectly positioned, her books neatly shelved, her life in order. The solitude was a gift, allowing her to dive into her freelance projects without distraction. She'd built a life of balance, managing her finances with ease and even setting aside $15,000 in savings for emergencies or future home improvements. Life felt good, stable, and full of promise. But as we all know, peace can be fleeting, especially when family comes knocking. One crisp Tuesday morning in March, Casey was deep in her emails when her phone buzzed, her mom's name flashing on the screen. "Hey, Mom, what's up?" she answered, expecting a casual chat. But her mom's voice was tense, heavy with urgency. "Casey, honey, we need to talk about something serious," Linda said. "The house needs major repairs. The roof is leaking badly, and there's water damage in the living room. We got quotes, and it's going to cost at least $10,000. Casey's heart sank. $10,000 was a massive sum, far beyond the usual small amounts she sent her family. "Mom, that's a lot of money," she said, her mind racing. "I know, sweetheart," Linda replied, her tone desperate. "But we don't have anywhere else to turn. The insurance won't cover it because they say it's from years of neglected maintenance. If we don't fix it soon, the damage will spread." Casey rubbed her forehead, glancing at her laptop, where her savings account balance stared back at her. She had $15,000 saved, her safety net for emergencies. After a moment of hesitation, she sighed. "Okay, Mom. I'll transfer the money today." "Oh, thank you, Casey," Linda gushed. "You're such a good daughter. We'll pay you back as soon as we can." But before Casey could hang up, her mom added, "Oh, and one more thing. While the repairs are happening, your dad and I will need to move out for a few weeks. Could we stay with you?" Casey's stomach twisted. She loved her parents, but her house was her sanctuary, her workspace. "Mom, I don't know," she said. "My house isn't that big, and I work from home." "Casey, please," Linda pleaded. "We can't afford to rent a place while paying for these repairs." How could Casey say no? With a heavy heart, she agreed. "All right, Mom. You and Dad can stay here during the repairs." The following week, Casey prepared her downstairs guest room, moving her exercise equipment to the basement and setting out fresh sheets. She kept telling herself it was temporary, just a few weeks. When her parents arrived, their pickup truck was loaded with suitcases, boxes, and her mom's cherished collection of ceramic figurines. "This is so kind of you, dear," Linda said, carefully arranging her figurines on the guest room dresser. "We'll try not to be in your way." Casey nodded, asking, "How long do you think the repairs will take?" "About 3 weeks, maybe 4, her dad, Robert, replied, unpacking his clothes. 4 weeks felt manageable. Casey could handle 4 weeks, or so she thought. The first week went surprisingly well. Linda cooked hearty dinners most nights, a welcome change from Casey's usual quick meals between work calls. Robert tackled some overdue yard work, which Casey appreciated. They left early each morning to check on the repair progress and returned in the evening, giving Casey her space during the day. But by the second week, the cracks began to show. Linda rearranged Casey's kitchen to her liking, moving pots and pans to unfamiliar places. Robert left newspapers strewn across the dining table every morning, cluttering Casey's once tidy space. The quiet she cherished was slipping away, and she found herself retreating to her office for longer hours just to escape. When she asked about the repairs, Linda waved her off. "They're going slower than expected," she said. "These things always take longer than they tell you." Casey tried to stay patient, but as 2 more weeks passed, her frustration grew. Her house no longer felt like hers. One evening, Linda dropped a bombshell. "Jessica and her family are coming for dinner tomorrow night," she announced. "I invited them over." Casey blinked, caught off guard. "That's fine," she said, though she wished she'd been asked first. The next evening, Jessica arrived with Mike and Tyler, and Linda had gone all out. Pot roast, mashed potatoes, green beans, and homemade rolls filled the table. It was a feast far fancier than her usual weeknight meals. As they sat around Casey's dining table, Jessica cleared her throat, her expression serious. "We've been having some financial troubles lately," she began. "Mike's hours got cut at the warehouse, and I can't find steady work. We're behind on rent, and our landlord is threatening eviction." Casey felt a familiar knot forming in her stomach. She knew where this was going. "I'm sorry to hear that, Jess," she said cautiously. "Maybe things will pick up soon." But Jessica pressed on. "We were hoping we could stay here with you for a while, just until we get back on our feet." Casey nearly choked on her mashed potatoes. "Absolutely not," she said, setting down her fork. "Jessica, I'm already housing Mom and Dad. There's no room for 3 more people." Mike chimed in, "Your house has empty bedrooms upstairs." "We've seen them." Casey felt cornered, everyone staring at her like she was the villain. "It's not about space," she said firmly. "It's about privacy and my work. I run my business from home." Jessica's voice grew sharp. "We're about to be homeless, and you're worried about your precious privacy?" "I never said I wouldn't help," Casey shot back. "I said you can't move in here." Jessica stood, grabbing Tyler's hand. "Come on, Mike. Let's go. Clearly, we're not welcome here." The front door slammed behind them, leaving Casey with a sinking feeling. For the next week, Linda and Robert were cold toward Casey, making pointed comments about how big her house was and how sad it was that Jessica and Tyler might end up homeless. "You have so much room," Linda would say, shaking her head. "It's a shame your sister's struggling while you're here in this big house." They even talked loudly downstairs about people who forget where they came from, knowing Casey could hear. By Friday, the guilt and pressure were too much. Casey called Jessica. "Maybe you could stay here for a little while," she said reluctantly. "Just until you get back on your feet." 3 days later, Jessica, Mike, and Tyler moved in, their belongings stuffed into garbage bags and boxes of toys. Casey's quiet sanctuary was gone. The first week with Jessica's family was pure chaos. Tyler ran through the house, slamming doors and shouting at video games. During Casey's client calls, he'd burst into her office with questions, ignoring her attempts to hush him. "Tyler, I'm working," she'd whisper, pointing to her headset, but he'd just shrug and keep talking. Casey tried addressing it with Jessica. "He's just a kid," Jessica said dismissively. "Kids make noise. You don't have kids, so you don't understand." Tyler's behavior didn't improve, and Linda, who picked him up from school, let him run wild. A month later, Casey's utility bills arrived, and she nearly fainted. The electric bill had skyrocketed from $150 to $320, and the water bill had doubled. At dinner, she placed the bills on the table. "The utility costs have more than doubled," she said. "I think it's fair if we split them." The table fell silent. We're not paying your bills, Jessica snapped. We're guests in your house, Linda added sternly. They accused Casey of being greedy, with Jessica even crying, claiming Casey was trying to squeeze money out of them when they had nothing. Exhausted, Casey threw up her hands. Fine, I'll pay everything myself. 2 weeks later, Casey asked Linda when the repairs would be finished. They're running behind schedule, Linda said vaguely. We're saving money slowly to finish everything. Casey's eyes narrowed. What do you mean saving money? I gave you $10,000. That wasn't enough, Linda replied. If you want us to move out faster, maybe you could give us more money. Casey was stunned, but stayed silent. The situation worsened as Linda and Robert began inviting friends over on weekends, turning Casey's house into a social hub. We used to host gatherings at our place, Linda explained. But since it's being renovated, your house is perfect. Suddenly, Casey's weekends were filled with 8 or 10 strangers expecting her to cook and provide snacks. She started leaving the house on Saturday mornings, returning only in the evening to avoid the chaos. But Linda always had the same request. Casey, dear, could you clean up after our guests? Your father and I are getting old, and Jessica's tired from watching Tyler. So, Casey spent her Sunday mornings cleaning up after parties she never wanted. 6 months after her parents moved in, Casey was at her breaking point. Her house had become a circus. Tyler's constant noise, Linda's furniture rearrangements, Jessica treating the kitchen like her personal restaurant. The utility bills were crushing her budget, and her work was suffering from the constant distractions. Every time she asked about the repairs, she got vague answers. Still waiting on the contractor, Linda would say. The job market's terrible, Jessica would claim when asked about work. They keep promising more hours, Mike would add. When Casey pressed for timelines, they turned defensive. Are you trying to get rid of us? Jessica snapped. We're family, Mike said. I thought family stuck together. Casey felt trapped, her concerns dismissed as selfish. She stopped asking questions, just trying to survive each day. One Saturday morning, Casey decided she'd had enough. Instead of fleeing another weekend party, she drove to her parents' house to see the renovation progress for herself. She expected construction equipment, workers, or signs of a major project. Instead, she found a minivan in the driveway, children's toys on the lawn, and a freshly painted front door. The house looked perfect, better than ever. Her heart pounded as she knocked. A woman in her 30s answered, holding a toddler. Can I help you? She asked. This is my parents' house, Casey said, confused. I think you have the wrong address, the woman replied. We've been renting this house for the past 6 months from Linda and Robert Williams. Casey's stomach dropped. Renting from who? She asked. The owners, the woman said. They needed to move out for family reasons. We have a lease agreement. Everything clicked. There was no renovation. Her parents had been lying, living in her house for free while collecting rent from tenants. The $10,000 she gave them? Pure profit. Casey drove home in a blur, fury and betrayal coursing through her. When she walked into her house, another party was in full swing, laughter, music, and strangers eating food she paid for. Casey, Linda called cheerfully. You're back early. Come join us. Casey's voice cut through the noise. Everyone needs to leave, she said loudly. The room fell silent. Excuse me, Linda said, her smile fading. This party is over, Casey repeated. Everyone who doesn't live here needs to get out of my house. Her mom hissed, Casey Marie Williams, you're embarrassing me. Good, Casey shot back. Maybe you should be embarrassed. Within 10 minutes, the guests were gone, leaving only her family in the quiet living room. What the hell is wrong with you? Jessica demanded. Casey's voice shook with anger. I just drove by Mom and Dad's house. There's no renovation. You're renting it to a family with a toddler while freeloading here and pocketing their rent money. Linda's face paled. Robert sank into his chair. You lied to me, Casey continued. You took $10,000 from me under false pretenses. Jessica tried to intervene. I'm sure there's an explanation. Casey turned on her. You knew, didn't you? All of you knew. We needed the rental income, Linda said defensively. We're getting older and need financial security. So you stole from me? Casey shouted. You have more than enough, Mike said, gesturing at the house. You lied to me. Casey's months of frustration poured out. I want all of you out of my house. Pack your things and leave. Jessica laughed, a cold, mocking sound. We're not going anywhere. You can't just kick us out. We're established residents now. Casey stared in disbelief as her mom crossed her arms. If you want us to leave, you'll have to go through legal channels. Her own family was holding her house hostage. Without another word, Casey stormed upstairs, slamming her bedroom door. She could hear them downstairs, probably celebrating their victory. The next morning, Casey went for a 3-hour walk in the park, trying to clear her head. When she returned, she found her suitcases on the front porch. Her heart stopped. She tried her key in the front door, it wouldn't turn. They'd changed the locks. Casey knocked, then pounded. I know you're in there, she shouted. This is my house. Linda's voice came through the door. If you don't like living with us, maybe you should be the one to leave. Open this door right now, Casey demanded. We're not opening anything, Linda replied. You made your choice when you embarrassed us. Casey loaded her suitcases into her car and drove to a motel, tears streaming down her face. The clerk's pitying look only deepened her humiliation. That evening, Casey called her friend Sarah, a lawyer from college. Sarah, I need help, she said, her voice breaking. My family has locked me out of my own house. She explained everything, the fake renovation, the rental scam, the $10,000, the locks. Jesus Christ, Casey, Sarah said. Can they legally do this? Not the way they're doing it, Sarah replied. They don't have a lease with you, and they obtained residency through fraud. I can file an eviction notice tomorrow. Please do that, Casey said. I want them out. The next day, Sarah prepared an eviction notice giving Casey's family 2 weeks to vacate, including language about the fraudulent $10,000. I'll serve it personally, Sarah offered. You don't need to face them. Casey's phone buzzed relentlessly with calls and texts from her family, 40 missed calls and 30 messages in an hour. They started apologetic, Casey, let's work this out, but turned nasty when she didn't respond. You're destroying this family, one text read. Casey sent one reply, you have 2 weeks to get out. If you're not gone, I'm calling the police and filing fraud charges. The calls stopped. Sarah kept Casey updated. They're moving out, she said 2 days before the deadline. I saw a moving truck and your dad loading boxes. When Casey returned home, the house was empty, the silence almost surreal. She used a spare key hidden under a flower pot to get inside, then called a locksmith to change the locks again. She spent the day cleaning up the mess they'd left, garbage, dirty dishes, chaos. But she didn't care. Her house was hers again. Over the next few days, Casey's family sent messages, Linda's long texts about tearing the family apart, Robert's voicemails warning she'd regret her decision, Jessica calling her selfish. Casey deleted them all. Sarah learned they'd moved into a cramped 2-bedroom apartment, waiting for their tenant's lease to expire. They're still collecting rent, Sarah noted. They're not suffering financially. Casey decided not to pursue the $10,000 legally. The stress of reclaiming her home was enough. A month later, she was back in her routine, working in peace, enjoying manageable bills, and reclaiming her weekends. Family friends urged her to forgive, saying, family is everything. But Casey was done. She changed her phone number, blocked them on social media, and cut contact entirely. Casey's house is hers again, a sanctuary restored. She rearranged the furniture, restocked her kitchen, and savored the silence. Some call her harsh for cutting off her family, insisting blood is thicker than water. But Casey learned a hard truth. Sometimes, the healthiest choice is to walk away from toxic people, even if they're family. She's happier now, sleeping soundly knowing no one can change her locks again. Her life is her own, and the drama is finally over. What would you have done in Casey's shoes? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories that make you think twice about trust and family. Please feel free to comment below if you liked this. Remember to like and subscribers for more.